Paul, we finished the entire week. We finished the entire week.
Another
Another week is
week.
gone by.
Woo!
What? And not only another
Friday.
week gone by, we had a winner last week, and today we're gonna have another one.
Have another
Uh,
one. We're all about winning.
we're all about winning, and all you had to do is comment, engage, show up. Come on in,
We'll
talk to
make
us.
you. That should be our new slogan. We'll make you a winner.
We'll spill the will and make you a winner.
Even if it means we just send you a free marker, you'll
Yeah.
still be a winner.
A little cozy, right?
You're
What
running
look at
around
you.
all day. I'm
You
a
get a
winner.
pen. You get
I'm
a
a winner.
pen. So it's been an amazing week. It's been an interesting week.
Amazing is a word. Not sure it's a word I'd use, but
Yeah. It's definitely been growth, right? It's been a
it's
growth.
been a yeah. It's been a. I would honestly. I'm like I don't know about you. I'm only gonna speak for me. It was a hard week.
It was a hard week. It was a hard
Yeah.
week. And we're sharing that with you because every once in a while we all have those weeks where, I look at it as kind of like leveling up, right? Like in a game where it's like the hardest part of a game and you're like, oh, I'm grinding, level up. And now it becomes a little easier and now the level is, you're ready for the next level.
Here's why it is good to talk about, because it was a hard week as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
which of course I bring my person to, but like this week was a friggin' hard. Like,
It
like it
was.
just in so many ways. I think that's what really makes it feel so hard. It wasn't like, oh, I had one problem. It was like I had like some of the worst frustration with building my online community that I've like had so far in terms of logistical and technical stuff.
Yeah.
That I was ready to be like, I'm gonna smash this fucking computer. Like, like
What?
it was that like,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
the-
Well, let's talk about like a good thing.
It's a good thing.
You had a really cool interview with Myron Allis.
Myron was amazing. And here's one of the really,
dude
really
is
cool
smart.
things. Yeah, right? That I think this is one of the things that you don't realize when you're doing these kind of shows. And my clients are getting into it, which is really, really fun. One of the things that you get from interviewing other people is that when it's all over, right? When it's all said and done, Myron and I have spent another 2 hours just brainstorming about my business, what's going on, how I don't have ads, but like analytics and what that looks like. And it was such an eye opener that I'm gonna spend the entire weekend going over everything we discussed and laying out a completely new plan for my business to, pivot it and take it in a profitable direction. And so what was fantastic about the interview with Myron, if you guys haven't watched it, you do want to go to thatgeek.com/live. Watch that show because he gave the numbers specifically to what you need to look at when you are creating funnels, creating ads, how to push people's buttons. What was fascinating to me, Paul, is like when he was saying when you're writing on social media, you need to write about anger, disgust, and fear. That's your messages. Like, how angry are you that things are not working? How angry are you that, this software is doing this or you don't get the results that you want and all that stuff? How scary that might be. And then when they come to your page, that's when the hope and the solutions and all that stuff is at, right?
Right.
So
right.
it's a very interesting way of using these tools because most of us kind of like share happily on social media everything that's happening to us and we're not pushing those buttons of our audience and so we're not getting that much of an engagement. So it was a eye-opening interview, I would say.
But it's weird though. See, again, this is weird. This is the biggest battle for me of being in business for myself so that's really the old adage of salting the wound.
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
you need to salt the wound and what that literally, the literal way in which that plays out, it's a metaphor, right? But if you were to pour salt in someone's wound, what would you do? You would increase their pain.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's to me, like, I'm like, I'd rather not be in business. Like, I'm like, if that means I don't get to be rich, then I
But it's
won't
not
be
that.
rich.
Okay, but listen, but right? He's talking about psychographics and how humans react. And sadly, we are messed up humans. What am I going to say? Right?
That's
Right? Like,
exactly my point. That's my point. Is I'm like, aren't we in enough pain already? Why do
but
we
to
have
move,
to?
so some people know, right? They need to get to, what do you call that? Like the lowest point before they get up.
But again, it's like, is it my place as a human being to push someone to their rock bottom?
Not to
Like,
push them to the rock bottom, but reminding them how painful it is to be where they are right now. Because otherwise, we don't take action. We don't. We're comfortable, right? This is my comfort zone.
so
This is
this is the
where.
nuance. The nuance that I'm willing to explore further is I'm open to doing a better job of increasing people's awareness of what their pain that exists is really doing. But again, as a former English teacher and now as a hypnotist, when I'm really picky with language sometimes, and I'm like, but I'm not going to salt the wound. I'm not going to make their pain worse. I find that ethically objectionable.
That's fair, right? But
Right?
but
Like,
you can you actually, okay? So can you make their pain worse, or are you just describing how bad the situation is?
so right. So and I don't want to and we're taking this discussion in this direction. I don't want anyone watching this to think that we're saying that I'm summarizing
Myron is
what
saying.
Myron was
Yeah.
advocating for. I'm trying to understand it based on what I get that he's saying is like emotion is what moves people, right? So
Right.
but I so often I've heard other marketers who just insist that you've got to salt the wound. And I'm like, that to me it feels like that'd be like if like physicians take a oath to do no harm, right? And
Right.
so if you had a person that was a smoker that came in
Right.
and instead of just saying, look, if you keep smoking you're gonna die, what if physicians were like, let me like I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna
No, but this is a fantastic point,
pour ash
right?
down your lungs to get you to get it.
But no, but it's a fantastic point, right? Because smokers don't know how they're harming themselves. So if you describe,
they do. They
come
totally
on.
do. They just don't care. They don't give a shit because
They do
they're
care.
what they
Well,
like
they-
is, you know.
Okay, so if you're my sister, she's a smoking mother, and she would give you all the stupid, reasoning for why she continued to smoke around her kids, right? But if I can describe it in a way that goes like, look, your kid is gonna, like, the future and the life that you're creating for you're killing your kid, right? You're killing your kid. And if I start describing all that stuff and it gets to an emotional place where she's like, my kid's health is more important than my habit of smoking, then she might change her behavior. Right? But I'm not making her smoking even worse, or I can't. How can you make her smoking even worse, right? Like
Right.
you can't.
Yeah.
You can't do that, but you describe the situation to make it go like, oh my God, I didn't realize I'm actually in a really fucked up place. If I'm not going to change, things are going to get worse from here.
Right. So that's that. Yeah. I see the value in sort of confronting that with people and helping people have meaningful conversations around that. Absolutely.
You know what? And actually, let's bring our conversation yesterday, right? It was a painful conversation for me. I had some. It was.
Hence back to this week was hard.
It
Yeah.
was a very painful conversation. Heather is here and she's watching us. Hi, Heather. Hop on in. Come say hi. And just a quick reminder, Heather, you are added. Your name is being added to the spinning wheel. See if we can, reward you. We have a really, really cool prize today, by the way. So, right? So talking about like emotional, it was very difficult, and I had to do something today that was extremely difficult for me to do. But if you and I did not have that conversation, and if you did not paint the future of that's going to be even harder coming down the line, then I might not have taken that step this morning. I might have been like, yeah, okay, well, let's see what happens. So
this week was there was this theme this week, right? When we talk about it was this week, you guys, the theme that Yifat and I both kept coming back to were variations of this idea of like, you get into entrepreneurship, you get into running your own business because you want to be your own boss. You don't want someone telling you what to do. But as you're growing, you get to a point where if you're doing well, you're going to end up becoming somebody's boss. You're going to have to hire employees or even contractors or something, where then you are in that place that you didn't want to be with. This is why you got out in the first place. And then you're like, man, I'm doing it now. I'm telling other people what you're doing isn't good enough, or you can't do that, or you have to do. And you're like, and this is why I got out. I was like, I don't want people telling me what to do. I want to do what I want to do. And it's this paradoxical thing, right? Of like, you get out for the one reason, and then also you want to be your own boss, but you can't run a successful business truly, literally all by yourself.
That's right. Yep.
You just can't.
No, because then it's a job. It's just a job. And it's very interesting because I'm in a very interesting position where I have clients that I'm working with their team. And so that feels like an employee because I'm a part of a team, but they're my client, right? And then I have my own team that they're managing different clients. And it's such a very interesting position where you find yourself, sometimes you're like both the employee and the employer, and you have different objectives and stuff that you need to do, and you're managing the team here and you're answering to the clients there. It's definitely gonna level you up. If you need a level up, become a business owner, right? Have kids and then become a business owner. You'll level up in life. Heather is saying, let's see, Heather says that for her mother, they made her mother smoke outside. No way she was smoking around her kids.
Like,
and
go hang
she
out
brought
with
her
the
own
dog.
ashtray.
Come back in when you come back in when you're done, Smokey McGee.
Right? And then she says, exactly, but you outsource or practice servant leadership with your team. So that's an interesting one, right? Like servant leadership. That is a place where you are really helping your team shine. And what I'm finding is like to be a really, really good leader, you need to know what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, then you can't tell your team what to do. And then they're all over the place trying to please you and nothing. And so part of the hard things is like, wow, if your team doesn't perform, is it because of you or because of them?
Right? Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
leveling up. So Stuart, how
Stuart's
are
here.
you, buddy?
Stuart, did you supervise people in your career?
Did you?
I had 27 real estate brokers working for me in a phone room.
Holy
I had a
moly.
corporation that had a few. They thought I was perfectly crazy, but we made a lot of money.
I'm sure they forgave you because of that.
Yes, I had a 22-year-old making $30,000 a week.
Nice.
That was in the real estate craze days, and I was working in the phone room, and I just sat there asleep because I had so much experience and just answered the phone very lackadaisically and made about $15,000 a week. That was in the old days. Now I'm out in the trailer in the middle of the desert, so things change.
Yes.
No, but you do. To get back to your point, specifically, I wanted to address two specific things that you said, and I want to be specific. Paul, you're in a helping profession. You're in a health profession.
Yeah, that's true.
For you to emphasize someone's pain is far different than I, as a real estate investment professional, with someone who has perhaps a real problem that they've got to deal with, and I have to find the place where they'll realize how much pain they're in. And once I find that pain button, I got to lean on it for a little while for them to get real, and then all of a sudden, maybe the barriers I can break down, or I can figure out the communication ways to talk to them. And Yifat, you better know what you want your people to do.
Yep, that's a biggie. And I'm working with clients who are not right. They're the visionary, and so they're coming with the vision. But when you apply it specifically to step by step by step, this is what I need done. If you don't give it specifically to the team, then the team doesn't know what to do. And when you run a business, you become a better leader, right? Better communicator, better performer. You have to, otherwise you can't buy there's no successful business without it. I
think this has been a very successful week for you guys. I haven't been able to catch all of it, but I will go back and review what you've done. I didn't see yesterday's show
Yeah.
because I was a little familiar with what he was going to say, but and I was fighting my own forest fires. But I will review the week. I think anyone who doesn't would be a fool. Understanding Google Analytics tangled me up for the last 15 years.
Right, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's
yeah.
But that's why we're going to come back to it again and again. Like, that's what we talked about is that's not something that you're like, oh, I spent a couple hours on analytics and now I get it.
That, like, Paul, isn't that a class? I mean, couldn't someone who really was good at analytics?
There are classes where people are teaching analytics.
Yeah, but they're not being promoted. They're not being promoted like the guys trying to sell real estate. Someone needs to put together something that's going to make some stuff happen.
It's called
I
Google,
thought the same
right?
thing about. I thought the same thing about LastPass, password protection and material protections, etc. It's a absolutely unbeatable system, but it's complicated, and I've never understood how to use it to its fullest potential. So I thought, well, gee, maybe I ought to sit down and really learn this thing and then sell it to somebody else, sell that understanding. But no, not my game.
That's okay.
But someone else should do it.
All right. Well, Yifat will do it. Yifat will take care of it. Yifat, what was the best thing, Yifat, that happened this week out of all the stuff that happened?
What's the best thing that happened this week out of all the stuff that happens?
Like, we were a little bit focused on the hard stuff. We should at least celebrate something. Like, what was the best thing that happened?
Well, one of my employees actually sent me a text message and said that she loves being my employee and such a great boss, and she's so fortunate to be working as a team and stuff like that. And I was like, that's awesome.
There you go. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, right. So that was pretty nice. And then when I shared that with one of the clients, she goes like, and I appreciate you too. And I was like, thank you. That's awesome too. Can I get that in writing? Right?
This is one of those weeks where that's we need more. Everybody needs more of that. I mean, the other thing that's really, I think, incredibly sad this week is all the social stuff that's gone on. I mean,
which one?
This terrible situation in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Plus the Central Park incident, and it's and again, none of it's anything new really, but it's just people are already so scared and so tired and so on edge from all the pandemic stuff, and now this thing seems to be igniting it to a whole other level. I mean, the video that I'm seeing of what's going on in Minneapolis is just so sad, like just so terribly sad.
I was talking to someone yesterday and I was like, I don't know if we can fix it or we just need to wait for that generation to die. Cause it's like the amount of hate and, indifference that you have to have in yourself to put your knee on someone's neck and not, someone who's like under a car, what do you call that? Like bundled up, right? And still like press on.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think you can get out of that,
Well, you can.
How can you
just
get
can't
out of it
do
when
it
you're like
overnight.
so...
Like,
I don't know.
it's your initial thing is it's generational. Like you would need to spend, and that's the part I have no answers for at all. And I'll tell you right now, the answers aren't political.
No,
the answers are they couldn't be further from political answers. The answers are humanistic answers. The answers are like everyday people like you and me need to start just really working on. And it's fun, like my dad, when I talk like this, my dad's like, "You're such a bleeding heart." Like, and I'm like, no, it's like loving people and being kind to people is the most practical thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's not pie in the sky. It's that's what it is. Like, if you pay attention to human behavior studies, like people are at their worst when they're afraid and when they're angry. And so like you can't legislate the fear and anger out of people. You can't create enough laws. You can't do enough things with politicians. What
Well,
you
you
do,
kinda, right? Because you kind of also leadership, what do you call that? Stinks from the head, right? So if the leader is perpetuating anger and fear and putting people against each other, then it doesn't matter how many good people are in the world. That's
oh
gonna
no,
be
no, no. That's where I'm totally
okay. Not
disagree.
how
It
many
does
good
matter
people in
how
the
many.
world, but it's easy to sway to.
I mean, it's again, it's where our attention goes though, because like we are like right now, you know, even with all of this terrible stuff that's going on, there are still so many good things happening.
That's true.
It's just that no one's covering that. Like, so that's what I mean is again, it comes down to like, we have to all develop a discipline of, and I'm not saying ignore this stuff, but not getting so caught up in it that it gets all of our attention, because otherwise then that's where you go, that's where you live, that's where you are, you know, like there has to be some kind of a thing. And I don't know, I don't have it perfected, but I know in my bones that there has to be a thing. I love this, like I quote this all the time, and again, it's easy to be like, this dude's quoting Mr. Rogers. Yeah, I'm gonna quote Mr. Rogers. When I was a kid, so much of the good stuff I learned from watching Mr. Rogers' show, because he taught kids about how to be kind and how to be good to one another. And one of the things he said over and over again, he would say and he said his mother taught him this, was when there's trouble, look for the helpers. And what he was speaking to is like, you can just focus on the trouble and get all scared of the trouble, or you can instead notice that in the time of trouble, there are people who just automatically step up and they help. And we saw that with 9/11, and we saw it with the tsunami, and we saw it with Katrina. We saw the bad stuff too, but we didn't only see the bad stuff. And so this is another one of those times where like, it's very normal and reasonable for people to be outraged and angry, but we have to build a way to not stay in the outrage and the anger, or that's all we get. We have to find a way to go, okay, now how do we love one another? How do we help each other, you know?
And I think that's kind of like the same way you run a company, right? Like you lead the company to be what it is. And so if the legislation and the management and the government are not leading us to unity, that's a problem. I'm very happy that they were fired. I'm very happy, you know, I think he should be placed on murder charges, and hopefully get like, you know, full punishment. And I hope it kind of filtrates into the entire police and going like, look, we can't be, you know, we can't do that. Like we're here to serve and protect. Protect.
So here's the, I'll take a really, what many people will think is probably a ridiculous position, but I mean it truly. When I see that stuff happen, where I've come to in my life is, I think your first reaction is, what a douchebag that guy is.
Yeah.
And he deserves it, right?
Yeah.
But what I've learned is like, even that, like that's not going to help the world get to a better place, because that just becomes judgment and anger again, right? So you're allowed to have those feelings, but I think if we're going to get the world to a different place, you have to then go, you have to find compassion even for that guy. You have to cultivate some level of compassion where you say, what happened to that guy that brought him to that place in his life where he could do that to another human being and not go, this is not okay what I'm doing. Like that's a loss of his humanity that should be grieved for.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And right? Like something happened to him to make him like that. And at the same time, whatever he did, he's
got to be responsible for it. He's got to be responsible for it. But I think that we live in this culture now where anger is the most acceptable communication form. Yeah. That's what we really, right?
So, and you know, circling back to Myron, that is how you communicate online.
I know, but so I get that in some ways, but that's where I'm like, I'd rather not be here. Like if that's all we've got,
it's not all we've got.
In which,
but like right, so it's not either or. It's not all we've got, but and there are always going to be some bad apples, always, right? So like I was in a co-op when I went to UT here. 50 people, same exact thing. Everybody like a kibbutz, right? Everybody works 5 hours. Everybody gets access to everything. There's always one asshole that not happy with the way things are working, right? There's always one who's like under the thing, kind of like a snake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, if 40 people cannot get together, how will the whole world get together, right? And there's everything equal. Everybody gets the same exact thing. But still, there's always one that feels like, they're not getting enough. His mother didn't love him, okay, but now you're affecting 40 other people, and So yeah, I had a sociology teacher when I was in college, and she said, "What if someone stole from the village or committed whatever sin against society? We will sit him in the middle of the town square, right, on a chair. Everybody will line up, and every person will come in and apologize for whatever their part was in making him feel like he had to kill, he had to steal, he had to do something, right? Like, there's something that I didn't give you that made you go and blah, blah. And she was like, that would be our social responsibility for each other, making sure that everybody feels included, everybody feels loved. And that works, when you take personal responsibility for yourself. But many people don't take personal responsibility for themselves and their actions. They're the victim, right? They never get enough, they're never loved. And yeah, it'll be a nice world, but I don't know. Paul lost his tongue because I was so right.
So yeah, I get it. And that's where, again, I think, and what I just come to when we get to that point in conversations, I'm like, we've had, I don't know, a few thousand years to do it not that way. Like, so,
right.
We've had a few thousand years to cut off people's hands when they steal and inject people or hang them when they murder. Like, we've had all the angry punishment-based ways for centuries, and it all still happens. So I'm sort of like at this point where I'm like,
well, let's try love.
Wouldn't it be worth really just for a can we have a century where we really just do the loving thing, where we just really do it for 100 years and give
happens.
it a good shot? Because I'm like, can it really be worse than
That's true. And can that work in a political, in a capitalistic society? Right? So
I think it could, though, because look at what we talk about all the time. Like, the capitalism that we feel attracted to is all the stuff around
helping
making people feel connected, being part of a community, wanting to feel engaged, wanting to feel valued, right? And we do pretty well with that. We do all right with that.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. We could talk about this for years. Let's give something away to somebody.
Give something away, but hold on. Heather is saying, like, that's a loss of humanity. People abuse their wives, their kids, right? Yeah. And there's always one who's always out there for themselves. Yeah, it's a challenge, Maybe your mother didn't love you enough, boy. That's George Michael. So it's a good song. If you don't know it, Star People.
Friday, we're quoting George Michael. That's all right.
Yeah. It's a good song, Star People. It's really good. So this is what we're doing today. We are going to spin the wheel, and what you're gonna get is 15 minutes one-on-one consultation with yours truly. So you can ask me anything about your business, your life, your health, your religion. I can't tell you about it. But
the entrepreneur stuff, she's got you covered.
Entrepreneur stuff, I got you covered.
That's a pretty nice brain picking session. I'd go for that. All right, I'll tell you, next week we'll probably give away a book again, but then the week after that, I'll do the same thing. I'll do a personal development one, and I'll see your session and match you a session.
There you go. So let's see, who am I going to talk to this time?
Spin that thing.
Cool.
No whammies. No whammies.
I'm talking to myself. Yay. Donna Bloom.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I know Donna Bloom, and she is going to be over the moon that she just won that.
That is
oh my God. That's going to make her friggin' week. All right. Very cool.
Yay. So that's our week. That's our Friday finish. Reach out to Donna Bloom and see how we can get on a 15-minute call together. And on Monday, we will be musing again. So have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic
Have a good
finish
week.
to your
Have
Friday.
a good weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend. Yeah, let's finish this week better, right? Let's have a fantastic weekend, all of us. And see you guys Monday.